Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com, where if you go out there right now and check out #basketball.com, they have brand new premium tools that will link to your Yahoo account, all the projections, all the statistics that you need to have a winning fantasy basketball season. That is #basketball.com. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Michael, you way undersold the greatness of these tools. I mean, these tools will literally, you can be a dummy and win your fantasy league now, because these tools will tell you who to pick up. They will tell you everything you need to know for your Yahoo league, who you should start, who you should pick up, who you should play, why you should play them, when you should play them. The tools got a little bit of everything, and Joey even released some tutorial videos on how to use the tools, so you literally can't mess it up.
Yeah, go check out #basketball's YouTube channel, where you can get tutorials on how to actually use these tools to better yourself in your fantasy prep and during your fantasy season. The videos are pretty good. They're well done. I've always liked #basketball for its schedules. And there's an advanced schedule now, and obviously for the projections too. So they got a lot of stuff.
They have the best schedule grid, right? I can remember using that like all the way back in 2013,
right? Years ago. I use everything that is available to you, and right now there are a lot of tools available to you at #basketball.com.
So. And I know we'll get this question, so I'll preface this too. Right now, the tools are only available for people in Yahoo leagues. Unfortunately, they're not available for ESPN or Fantrax, but that is something we hope to do in the future. Maybe not this season, but
mostly on ESPN. I think if you're out there, you're in an ESPN league. ESPN does not make it friendly for they do not have an API, and that's very, if you're not into computers, basically they have no way to get the data quickly off of their servers, so you could use interactive tools with the data from your league. So if you are in an ESPN league, you don't like the fact that you can't use these tools, contact ESPN and ask them to make their data available so people can use fantasy tools on their site.
Yeah, and good luck with that.
So we are starting a new series. We already got through our 30 teams in over 30 days, Tyler. It was a long slog, but here we are. There's basketball on TV, and it is time to figure out who we are going to be drafting based on where we are picking in the first round.
So I'll plug this real quick, and fans might not care, but we'll talk about it. So, such that you wanted to say the greatness of Luka Doncic and you missed the game against the Beijing Ducks. I wrote an article, and in the article it links like 7 or 8 clips of Luka Doncic just annihilating some poor Beijing Duck man just many times.
Now, don't get too excited. It's just the Beijing Ducks.
Well, but here's my point, right? So I think, and we can talk about the validity of the Beijing Ducks if you want, right? Like, everybody scores 1 million points in the Chinese league. Like, that's just a thing that happens. But I think the people who watched the game saw the ability for this young man to handle the ball and dribble like an insane human being. And basically the article displays that. And I think he gets an unfair shake by some people of like, oh, he's going to be a bust, he's going to be terrible, and I don't think half these people have ever even seen him on the court.
Yeah, anyone saying that is just incorrect. He's the most decorated rookie of all time.
You can check it out, and there's like 6 clips in there, and some of them are pretty amazing. I mean, granted, the level of competition is not A+, right? But there's some pretty amazing stuff in there.
Where can we see that?
It's at the Smoking Cuban, and if you just Google like Doncic wows and preseason debut, it should come right up.
Perfect. Yeah, go check that out. This will probably be the last few days you're going to get a discount on Doncic. He is definitely going to move up in those rankings as people get to see him play in the preseason. And we're going to talk about the preseason. It's only been a few days. There's been only a handful of games. Not every team's played. So once we get at least a full set of a couple games on each one of these teams, we're going to talk about what we are going to be viewing for the preseason. We're also going to be doing a tiered roto system, a tiered ranking for a roto system if you're in a roto league. We're going to be talking about the ADPs for Yahoo and ESPN and where we find some value in there. And one of our favorite segments, something we did last year, a lot of people had really positive feedback for, was the Who Do I Draft series. And we are starting tonight with I'm taking number one overall in probably every single league I'm in, no matter what type of league I'm in, as long as I'm not in a points league, because I don't play points leagues because there's always some weird points that doesn't make any sense. Or if I am doing a three category experimental team. So if you're interested in getting into the listener leagues, one of them being a 3-category experimental league, check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. If you subscribe, you will get able to sign up to our listener leagues. So go check that out. But other than those weird leagues, Anthony Davis is my number one overall draft pick. I don't know if you agree, Tyler, but that's who I feel is number one.
Davis just gives you an insane amount of everything, right? I mean, other than 3-pointers, even 2.6 assists is pretty darn good for a big guy. 1.4 steals, 2.5 blocks, like 11 rebounds, 28 points. It's really hard to go against Anthony Davis.
These stats are basically unmatchable. And a lot of these guys at the top of the draft, the stats are unmatchable. Anthony Davis almost gets you a 3-pointer a game, which back in the day, a center shooting threes was unheard of. Now it's starting to become more commonplace. And that's one of his weaknesses. But like your center only hitting, a half a three a game, really, it's not the worst case scenario.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And, I mean, we talked about this in our Sixers season preview with Ben Simmons, right? I mean, I told you, I tried to make the case for, you said that drafting Ben Simmons is a death knell to your threes, and I tried to make the case against that. And, I mean, this key's giving you more threes than Ben Simmons.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would, I'm still going to disagree that, when you're getting 0 threes from a position that's traditionally a good 3-point kind of shot with your possibly into first round or middle of second round pick, depending on where you're picking him. You're kind of tossing threes away, but you can still build around that. It's still early enough in the draft. And I think that's actually what we're trying to accomplish here with these Who Do I Draft segments, is that we're going to be focusing on head-to-head leagues, because in a roto league, you're really kind of looking for the best all across the player available. And we'll probably talk about our roto picks here and there as we do these, but we're going to focus on 12-team head-to-head leagues. That's the perspective we're going to be coming from here while we do these Who Do I Draft segments.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we don't really have to pick Davis at number one, right? Davis goes to number 2, which is probably where I'd pick him in a head-to-head league, because I don't super care about my percentages a lot of times in head-to-head leagues. And one of Davis's biggest strengths, right, is he shoots amazing on both percentages. So, I mean, you get to pick him at number 2, so you get a nice little value there of an amazing stat line, and just so easy to click and be like, yeah, I'll have him. Thank you.
Yeah, and at a great volume, too. I've actually been asked a few times, should I take Karl Anthony Towns with my first or second pick over Anthony Davis? And I keep wondering to myself, well, why would you do that? Do you think Karl Anthony Towns is going to improve and be as good as Anthony Davis? They're very similar players, but there's just certain things that Anthony Davis does that Karl Anthony Towns does not. And I guess you could say, Towns hits a little bit more threes, but you're never going to get a full extra block.
Right. And
that's half a steal out of Karl Anthony Towns.
And the things that he would need to catch Anthony Davis are things that are not easy to do, right? Like, he could score the 4 points such that Jimmy Butler leaves and they give him the ball more. Like, he could get up to those points, but he's not going to get the half a steal and full block Like those are statistics that just don't come overnight.
No, you either have those baked into your game or you don't. And maybe there's an extra few points in there for Karl Anthony Towns, but down the stretch last season, Anthony Davis was almost averaging 30 points a game, and that's not absurd to think he can do it this year.
Yeah, and I mean we talk about this maybe sometimes. The thing that'll hold him back maybe from averaging 30 a game would be if he just stopped going to the locker room 5 times a season and for whatever reason, and then maybe coming back out and sometimes not, and being fine for the next game. Like if he just quit it. Because those hurt his night. Like if you look back at his game log from last year, right? He had a few games where it was like 6 points, 10 points because he went to the locker room in the freaking second quarter and never came back, and then he was fine to play the next game.
Yeah, that is true, but also he does so much. Anthony Davis does so much in one game that he's basically giving 2 players stats, like 2 mediocre players stats. That's just how good he is.
Oh yeah, no doubt, right?
So let's get right into this draft. We're going to be doing a snake draft because in an auction draft, anything can go in any different direction, and we can't really prepare you for an auction draft like the way we can for a snake draft. We might throw in some side comments about auction drafts here and there, but we're going to focus on a 12-team snake draft, and we're going to go based on average picks on Yahoo. Anthony Davis is going 1 or 2, but it looks like James Harden just has the slight edge. James Harden is going 1.6, while Anthony Davis is going 2.2. So, Tyler, you're in luck. You got Anthony Davis with the 2nd pick overall. It's a pretty good pick, Tyler. Good job.
Yes, I feel like I'm winning this already.
You nailed it, but that means you are not picking until 23-26. So you're going to be on that turn at the end of the 2nd round, beginning of the 3rd round. You already got a incredibly good center here. And in that late 2nd, early 3rd round, you're kind of coming up on a big cluster of guards, whether they're kind of like 2nd-tier point guards or 2nd to 3rd tier shooting guards and wings. But you also got some interesting centers available as well. And so I'm gonna give you a list of names, and I want you to basically go in whatever direction you'd like here. So you're sitting there, it's coming up on your pick, 23rd pick here. And you got Drew Holiday out there. That's nice. You also got Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kyle Lowry, Rudy Gobert, Klay Thompson, Chris Middleton, and basically anybody after those types of players. Those guys are available. Did I give you Drummond? Because Drummond might not be available in a head-to-head league at the end of the 2nd and beginning of the 3rd.
Yeah, right. And so that is going to kind of depend on the league and who's trying to punt what.
Yeah, Gobert might though, and that could be an interesting center. But what is your kind of strategy when you go into head-to-head with each one of these guys? Do you make your strengths stronger? Or do you look to balance out the categories or get better in the categories that you're not punting?
Well, so in round 2, I'm probably just looking for whoever I think is the strongest player here. Like, who can I bank on that's going to be good, that's going to play a lot of games, that's going to be around, that's going to score points, right? Because we talked about points dry up fast.
Yeah.
So I'm really just kind of looking for the best available player at this point, I think. I mean, Anthony Davis, we talked about it. He doesn't really hurt you anywhere. So I can kind of just take the guy who's best available.
You can still go in any direction. We preach this all the time here when you're in a head-to-head league. A lot of people ask us, who do I punt if I draft Anthony Davis? And the answer is, I don't know who's your 2nd and 3rd round pick, because that's really going to determine. Those top guys are so good, you usually can go in any direction. I think there's a few exceptions out there. And you're also, like with Anthony Davis, you could be incentivized to just go, you know what, I am going to ignore threes because I don't have a good 3-point shooter as my center. You can go in that direction.
So looking at Yahoo's ADP, okay, so I got 2 picks out of 4, right?
We're going to go 23, 25.
Right, so you know what I mean? No, 26, because it's 24 and 25.
26. You're right, 24 and 25.
Okay,
26. My bad.
so I got 2 picks here, and there's a lot of good names, right? Surprisingly, on Yahoo, Jimmy Butler and John Wall are still around, right? Like, if those 2 guys are still around, like people are picking Kemba Walker and Kyrie Irving and all those guys way up there, and they're gonna give me Jimmy Butler and John Wall. Like, those are probably the 2 names I'm looking at first.
Yeah, that surprises me a lot. I think if you're in a league with a lot of the, pros or sharps or guys who play a lot, John Wall, Jimmy Butler are not going to fall to you. But in Yahoo leagues, in casual leagues, they are.
Right? And so, I mean, let's just put that out there on the table, right?
Yeah,
so
I'm
let's
with
assume
you.
that they're picked, but maybe your league's one of these leagues where these guys are available because they both have ADPs of 23.7 and 23.8. They're kind of right available in that range in some drafts. And I think some people are maybe afraid of the Jimmy Butler ness. I don't know what you want to.
Yeah, I mean, let's maybe bring that up now that we're talking about Jimmy Butler. Are you worried about Jimmy Butler's situation right now?
No, not at all. Because I mean, I think we've seen it, right? Jimmy Butler isn't going to go to a team unless somehow the Warriors trade for him, right? That like has as many mouths to feed as the Timberwolves. And Jimmy Butler was awesome last year.
Jimmy Butler's probably the primary scorer on almost any team he goes to.
Well, think about that team last year, right? They had Karl Anthony Towns, who's one of the best players. They had Andrew Wiggins, who's a volume scorer. And they got Jeff Teague, who's a point guard who loves to have the ball in his hands. And Jimmy Butler still put up that amazing stat line last year. So I am not worried about Jimmy Butler at all. And obviously, the only thing that would worry me is if we get super close to the season and they still haven't traded him. Like, is he gonna like pull the Le'Veon Bell and just not play for a while? Like, okay, maybe that's a worry, but
yeah, there's certainly a possibility there. But I feel like that will blow over fairly quickly. I know we said, I think we mentioned this maybe either last time or. Maybe when we talked about Kawhi, but we're like, no, that's never happens. It's not going to last the whole year. And well, except for Kawhi, but Kawhi was an injury, not a trade me type of thing. It was a little bit of both, right? I don't think that's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. I think they're going to he's going to be playing by November for sure.
Yeah, right. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a resolution in that either this week or next week. Just get it done and move on. So I'll put that out there, right? If they're available, those are probably where I'm going. So let's say they're picked. Drummond gives you the opportunity to almost lock down 2 stats if in a head-to-head league. So that becomes super interesting, right? And assuming you pick a point guard who gets you good steals later on, you're kind of locking down 3 stats because you're getting 2 really good steal guys for big men. You're getting 2 really good block guys, 2 of the better block guys in the league, and you're getting 2 of the absolute best rebounders. So it's a little hard to maybe look away from that in the sense that I'm kind of locking down 3 or 4 categories there. Now, it would obviously put me into a punt free throw build. So in a roto league, that's not something I'd be super gung-ho about doing.
Also, it kind of negates what AD is actually good at. He's shooting around 8 free throws a game and hitting them at an 83% rate. So you're going to say, you know what? I don't care. I'm putting the free throws. I don't care about 3-pointers probably a little bit at this point, just based on Andre Drummond's build. And I'm going hard at those big man stats. I got rebounds basically on lock. In fact, most of the guys who I draft after this don't even need to get a rebound whatsoever. So it makes a lot of guys more attractive, a lot of guards more attractive in those middle rounds.
Right, which is what I think is most available, right? Like we talk about that big clump of big men, but all those big men kind of have some warts, let's say, right? I mean, you got Hassan Whiteside with the playing time. Like, how much is that dude really going to play? You got Vucevic with the trade thing. You got
Horford's got, a lot of guys coming back. What's going to take away his usage?
Right, and you got Enes Kanter, right, who doesn't block a shot. You got, like everybody's got their thing, right? Like this guy's got this wart, this guy's got that wart.
Marcus Gasol doesn't shoot a good percentage.
So that's kind of appealing to me. So I'll put that on the table. Another guy that I'm pretty interested in this general area, and maybe this goes kind of the same way, would be Rudy Gobert, right? Like we saw Gobert be pretty awesome last year. Now he'd be another one that kind of tanks your free throws, but you look at some of these other guys, right? Like unless you're going to pick Drew Holiday, like Booker's going to tank your field goal a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of got a lot of decisions to make. Then going back for my third pick, I'm probably going to pick Chris Middleton if he's available.
Old Chris Middleton. What year? Every single time we do one of these, Chris Middleton is the third round pick. It just happens.
So
third or fourth round. It happens every single year.
Here's what I like, and here's why I'll say I'll pick Middleton. Okay, I think that shooting guard, small forward type runs out quicker than maybe anybody. And depending on the league, right, like some of the point guards get shooting guard eligibility, and that helps. But look at some of these like shooting guard, small forwards down here in the middle round range. Like they're not something I super want to be a part of. You know what I mean? Like once you get past the like Gary Harrises of the world and the Gordon Haywards of the world, like there's a nebulous there of guys that I'm not super high on.
There's a lot of mediocre, boring players who do nice things sometimes.
Right. And so, you know, Zach LaVine, Will Barton, these are the kind of guys I'm talking about. Like, I'm just not Tim Hardaway Jr., like not guys I'm super, super high on. Andrew Wiggins. I do like Nick Batum. He's in there.
You love Nick Batum. You're probably going to get Nick Batum in every league that you draft in.
No, I just did a draft on this weekend, and I did not draft Nick Batum. I did draft my other two favorite players, though, Mike.
Chris Middleton?
My other three favorite players.
Oh, okay. Ricky Rubio?
Yep. Who's the other one?
Wow. And Luka Doncic.
No, it was a dynasty league with like all the rookies was already like picked in the draft. I did offer the guy 5 first-round picks for the number 1 pick, and he turned me down.
That's a good move. This is going to be the guys in this draft are going to be, you know, there's a good chance some of them are going to be all-stars.
Oh, come on. You know my other favorite player, Mike. He's a point guard, too. He plays for
Kyle Lowry.
No, he plays for a team we were just talking about. Come on.
Dennis Smith Jr.
No, he plays for the Timberwolves.
Oh, Jeff Teague. I'm loving Jeff Teague with Jimmy Butler out of town.
Yeah. And we talked about that a little bit last time. I think, Jeff Teague's going to be good. So, yeah, I'm going Middleton. Where I go for that second pick, it kind of depends a lot on what's available, right? Like, I'm going to go Butler or Wall if one of those two is available. If not, I'm probably going to go Drummond. If you tell me he's picked 2, then it becomes kind of a coin flip for me between Gobert and Drew Holiday. And so some people ask me this, like, if I pick Anthony Davis, can I pick Drew Holiday? Like, yeah, sure. Why can't you? Now, in a head-to-head league, sure, there's going to be the week where those guys play 2 games and you might lose, but there's also the week where those guys play 4 or 5 games and you're going to kill it because your 2 best players play for that team.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with owning multiple players on a team, even 3 players. Stats are stats are stats. Like, it's not going to kill you. The one's not going to take away from the other one very often. They're all going to probably be around their averages because that's just how that works.
Yeah, so I'm never too worried about that.
So what I'm going to do is we got to settle on our.
Here's what I'll say though. I like to go big men early, so that way I can go point guards later. Because I just told you, right? I just told you some of my favorite guys to pick are point guards later on. So personally, I'm going to go for Drummond or Gobert probably over Drew Holiday. But Drew Holiday's been freaking amazing the last 2 years. So if you want to go Drew Holiday, like I'm not going to stop you.
All right, I'm going to give you Gobert at number 2. I think, he does last this long. On averages, there could be a chance that Drummond, Gobert go a little bit early, and then you would go in a point guard direction. But I think the 2 center build is really interesting. A lot of leagues have the 2 center build. I'm not a huge fan of. I'm more of a positionless basketball type of guy when it comes to my mindset, when it comes around fantasy.
Anthony Davis has power forward eligibility in at least Yahoo and Fantrax leagues. I won't speak for ESPN because their positions are a little bit wonky right now. So
ESPN's positions are always really, really wrong, way off and updated slowly. But I digress. So going center has allowed you to solidify your blocks, solidify your rebounds, and actually, it doesn't hurt your free throw percentage too much going with Gobert. It does hurt it, enough, but your field goal percentage is going to be really, really nice here. So you got a very specific build, and this is where you start to work in your punt strategy into the rest of the rounds that you're building. What you are giving up here is a lot of those the LaMarcus Aldridges, the Kevin Loves, your Draymond Greens. Also, Kyle Lowry's out here sometimes. You're going to be missing out on quite a few of those like second to third tier guys just to make sure you get a solid center core. And, I'm going to give Chris Middleton. It's hard for me not to. I'm not going to give you Chris Middleton every single one of these, Tyler, but this one I'm gonna give you.
So here's the reality, though. If you're not picking high in that third round, Middleton's going now. Like, that wasn't the case. Middleton for the last couple of years had been kind of an end of the third round pick.
Oh yeah.
But Middleton has gotten pushed up there to where he is basically like the third or fourth guy taken in that.
He's being drafted 30th ADP on Yahoo.
Right. So if I want Middleton in all of these, I'm gonna have to take him in the second round when we get toward the back end of that first round, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'm willing to do that as we draft players at different positions. But here, I think this is a pretty good spot.
Yeah. So I'm in. That's my team so far. I'm feeling real good about it. I'm feeling real good because I know there's some point guards coming up that I can grab, and I don't need a point guard who even gets me half a block. I feel like my blocks are super solid. I'm feeling real great about my blocks. I'm feeling real great about my rebounds. So I can kind of just look for other things in other areas. And I'm also not afraid to draft the point guard who shoots a crappy field goal percentage because I got two of the better field goal percentage guys in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And you got a really good steals guy with Chris Middleton, a guy kind of does stuff across the board. He's not going to hurt you anywhere.
Well, and I feel like
good at everything.
I feel like Middleton, or we can talk about this too. Like if Booker was available, like I'd be super interested in Booker at that third spot too, because they're going to get me 20 points and Booker probably even gets me 25. Whereas Gobert kind of is not going to score a ton for someone drafted in that second round.
True.
So I'm kind of maybe a little bit down on my points after drafting Anthony Davis, who's one of the absolute best point guys in the thing. So if I can get another 20-point scorer, I'm still feeling real good about my points.
All right, but your next picks are going to be at 47 and 50. So a lot of guys coming off the board here, a lot of the third-tier players. And we're starting to get down into that fourth tier where the tiers kind of even out it's the big buckets of guys who are all kind of similar, kind of interchangeable. And it looks like you might be getting a little bit lucky here. I'm not sure. I'm going to allow you, but Gary Harris is currently being drafted 48th, and you know how much we like Gary Harris on this podcast. You got Mike Conley at 49 in Yahoo ADPs. Gordon Hayward, one of the guys you say, he's still around. You also got DeAndre Jordan, who would be kind of like you could let Gobert go and go in a completely different direction with DeAndre Jordan. You could
see, in the head-to-head league,
build.
Is Jordan really going to last that long? Like, I don't think –
Probably not.
I think his ADP gets pushed down because, like, okay, so I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe it's like 60-40 head-to-head versus roto.
Yeah.
In the 40% of the roto or 60% of the roto, I don't know what the numbers work out to be. He's probably going much later. Whereas in most head-to-head leagues, I think Jordan is usually a third-round guy. Sometimes he slips into the very beginning of that fourth round, but he goes pretty quick.
You were right about that.
So I don't think he's going to be available if we're talking head-to-head. Now, if we're talking roto, I don't really want him, so that doesn't really matter. So I think we'll just kind of exclude him off.
Let's just throw him off the list. Dwight Howard might be available here, but Dwight Howard's got a whole bunch of other problems. Larry Marketing, Robert Covington, Vujovic. So there are quite a few bigs still available. Ricky Rubio, Joe Ingles, Paul Millsap, Gordon Dragic, your boy Jeff Teague is available. Niko Mirotic is out here. There's still a lot of really good players on the board, but which one of these guys is going to fit your center Middleton build?
Okay, so it's real hard for me to look past Gary Harris. Like you mentioned, I think just Gary Harris does a lot of good stuff, right? Real good percentages, good threes, good points. A few rebounds, a few assists, some really good steals. So I'd be inclined to go in that direction pretty easy. After that, if you say that's not available, that's gone, I'm probably going to go point guard.
Okay.
And the theory behind that is, right, like what category is my worst right now? the one that I'm not trying to punt is probably assists, right? Because I mean, Gobert is probably going to get you like 1.5. Anthony Davis is going to get you like 2.5, and Middleton is going to get you like 4, which four is good for a shooting guard, right? Like there's some shooting guards who are getting you like 2. So I'm probably going to go try to lock down assists. So I want a point guard who's going to dime, right? Who's going to give me some assists.
And those are getting harder and harder to come by, especially at this stage in the draft.
And I'll say this. This is one of the things that I think makes Jeff Teague super underrated, okay? Jeff Teague's gotten over 7 assists for 2 straight seasons. 7 assists don't come around that often, man. Not that many guys are getting 7 assists a game anymore, okay? So I'm probably going to take him with my second pick. I think he'll be around with my second pick. So then it comes, who do I want with my first pick? I'd probably take Rubio even over Mike Conley. I just feel a little bit better about Rubio being healthy. Gives me 2 more elite steal guys. Making steals a really, really good category for me. My blocks I still feel pretty damn good about. I still feel great about my rebounds. I feel great about my assists now. I'm feeling pretty good about my free throw percentage. I mean, we talked about Gobert hurt me a little bit, but I think I bumped it back up by drafting the next 3 guys.
Teague definitely helps you with free throw percentage, and Rubio isn't half bad either. He shoots 86%. Their volumes are a little bit low, but one of the things I like with the pick, and a lot of people are going to say, "Wow, the 47 and 50." Your 4th and 5th round pick, you're going to go with Rubio and Teague. Those guys are not being drafted really that high. But like we said, the values between pretty much 40 and 70 are all pretty close to one another. Probably 40 to 60 is probably even closer. And those guys give you those weird stats like Rubio's really, really good steals and Rubio's rebounds.
Right. And so, you know what I mean? And like, you just look at the team and like, okay, what holes do I got? 3-pointers.
Yeah, 3-pointers are your big hole now.
Okay, whatever. Like, I'm going to punt a category. The 3-pointers is it. Cool. I still feel pretty good about my field goal percentage. I don't think I'm the best in the league, but I still feel pretty good about it.
Even a pretty solid field goal percentage here.
Right. And so maybe 3-pointers and points are my kind of 2 light ones. But here's the other reality. If Butler never plays another game for the Timberwolves, how many points a game does Jeff Teague score?
Well, when he was balling it up with Jimmy Butler out during the last part of last season, he started bumping up his points into the 17 range.
Yeah, and so some people will look at the Atlanta years and say like, oh, well, he only ever got like 16 and a half points a game. Yeah, but he was playing like 30 minutes in a lot of those seasons, and this is Tibbs, man. Tibbs is going to play him like 33, 34 minutes a game. I think it's possible that we see him get into that 16, 17 range, which is pretty darn good for those middle rounds, right? Like, a lot of those guys are only scoring like 13, 14 points. I also think Rubio scored a little bit more last year, and I think that he's going to kind of be in a similar role again this year with maybe not having the ball in his hands quite as much, so he's not going to get those elite assists we talked about a lot last year, but he's going to probably score more. Like, he got 13.1 points a game last year. If you look like kind of post All-Star break, he was scoring over 14. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens again, right? 13, 14 points. So I might need some points boosters a little bit to kind of feel good about that category. But I also feel like my turnovers are pretty strong.
Yeah, your turnovers are fairly low for the team you have assembled here. I would say your points, even though AD scores almost 30 points a game, your points are mediocre to low. Your 3-pointers are not that good. Your free throws, fine, and your field goal is good.
And this maybe goes to a strategy that I've been trying to do a little bit more, right? So many people are going like real hard punting strategies now. And I feel like sometimes if you just kind of I won't say like build a roto team, but if you go a little more middle of the road,
If you hang out in that middle area, you win a lot of categories.
well, and even in head-to-head leagues, right? Like it becomes sometimes more of a I'm going to beat this guy in these 5 categories, and then the next week I'm going to beat you in 6 categories, and there might only be 2 or 3 of the same categories, right? Like I'm just going to take advantage of whatever you stink at, right? So I'm like more playing matchups, like it would be like a real basketball game than playing. I'm going to try to win these 5 categories every single week.
Yeah, if you have a very versatile team, you can actually employ that strategy. And I think Tyler, you've talked about this before. You're going to give that a shot this year and see how well it goes. And I think you're pretty onto something here because a lot of people, I try to zig when everybody's zagging, and a lot of people always punt percentages. Well, if you're just mediocre in percentages, you're probably going to win 1, if not 2 of those percentages almost every week. There's 2, and there's 2 wins right there.
And here's the other reality too, and we can talk about this maybe a little bit, right? Like for the rest of my team, right? Like I might grab some guys who are high point getters, or I might zig off that points category and say, okay, well, let's see, what can I build up? What can I build up? What can I get better at? So I think this team, and what I like about this team that I built here today is there's a lot of different directions I can go and feel really good about it still. Yeah, right? Like I don't feel like I'm locked into like I need this category next. I need this category next.
Yeah, it's a very interesting team with Rubio and Teague, Middleton as your wing, Gobert and AD. You pretty much do, depending on what positions are given, you pretty much do have almost everything covered in your starting lineup. But your next pick here in the 6th round, and we're only going to do 6 rounds because after that, by the time you get to the 7th round, maybe we'll give a 7th round. Maybe we'll give.
Well, we're on the turn,
people what they want, right?
Well, we're on the turn, so it's easy to say kind of 2 guys here that I'm looking at, right? Because it's all the same guys. It's all the same. I mean, if you're going to give me 5 names, I'm probably going to pick 2 of the same guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
it's all the same faces.
So maybe we'll go 1 extra round for you all, just because we're feeling really nice. But you are currently picking 71st. You can this kind of like. This is really when I feel drafts are won. You can't win a league in your draft. Like your draft is not going to win your league, but it's going to help you set you up to win your league. But you could definitely lose your league in the draft, and you could definitely lose your league early in the draft by picking wrong. But majority of the time, you're going to be fine by just sticking with guys who look good. It's in this area, this 50 to 90 range where you find those gems that push you over the edge. And I think, picking 71 and 74 here are pretty interesting picks.
I'm with you there. There's a lot of guys in this range that semi in on, and there's some guys that I'll talk about it. I'll reach down for some of these guys if I think they're the best guy available. So
yeah, let's let me list a few of them here. Harrison Barnes, old Harry B, is out there. Steven Adams is sometimes available. You got your Dennis Smith Juniors, your Enos Cantors, your Brooke Lopez is out there. Chris Dunn is still available. I was actually considering Chris Dunn with one of your earlier picks if you'd rather have Chris Dunn over Ricky Rubio or Jeff Teague, but maybe you can wait. Get Chris Dunn a little bit later.
Yeah, and especially in Yahoo you can, and he gets like at pick 70, like I think Chris Dunn could be kind of right in that range with Teague and Rubio pushing for the top 50. So Chris Dunn's a hard guy to pivot off of at this point. Elite steals, real good blocks for a point guard, kind of bad-ish percentages. But it's a way to go. So if I'm breaking this down and I'm looking at it, right, there's a lot of guys in here to unpack that I really kind of like. And so it all becomes a matter of where do I want to go? Who do I want to pick? So here's the thing. First thing I'll say, give me Mirotic if he's available.
Yeah. Oh, right? Always give me Mirotic if he's available.
70.3 is the ADP. I was in a draft the other night. Now this was just a mock, and I was picking 75 and he was available. And it was on Yahoo. So if I'm at 71 and Mirotic is available, I feel like in this build, Mirotic kind of really sets me up pretty damn good. He gives me some threes and some points to make those categories better, right? Which is maybe categories I was struggling in. And maybe I can win those a week or two now. So looking around at the other names, saying maybe he's not available, I'll underline a few that I really like, and then we'll maybe talk about how these guys fit in the build. So at this general range, the names I'm looking at, right, if I need a center, obviously I'm probably looking at some of those centers. I don't think I need a center right now.
You certainly don't.
So let's cross off the Adams, Whiteside, Valanciunas, all those names. There's a bunch of them in this range. So then we get down to a good group of guys, and I'm looking at Batum. I'm looking at Chris Dunn, obviously. I'm looking at Luka Doncic, maybe D'Angelo Russell, right? And then we can maybe even go down a little further and talk about guys like Kyle Anderson and those types.
Yeah, so I mean, Ronda House Jefferson's available here sometimes.
So,
oh man, there's a lot of good guys who are late in the draft here, especially now.
So here's what I'll say. Okay, not everybody can get picked here, right? So like we talked about, maybe I want Mirotic, right? Well, okay, maybe you say he's not available. Well, then maybe I want Luka Doncic, right? And I think that if I'm picking at 70, that's too low for Doncic. I think Doncic is easily a top 60 player.
I also think he's gone by then in a lot of good and better leagues.
Okay, so you know what I mean? But like you can't pick everybody. So then some other guys are going to start falling down. So that's another way to look at this too, is like if these guys are all going to move up, then these other guys are going to fall down. So then you're looking at maybe like a guy like Dragic is available, or you know what I mean? Like
someone, I'm a little out on Dragic, but there could be someone like Taurean Prince who falls.
Right. And so this is kind of what we talked about with this, like gets really nebulous. So if we're going to say Doncic got picked, and I'm looking at a lot of centers and some of these other guys, I think my next pick, it would be hard to pivot away from Nick Batum, just in the sense that I think Batum's going to be a lot better than this. Like I think Batum could easily be a top 50 player this year. We've seen it in the past, and he's going back to his more natural role. Batum gives me some good assists for a shooting guard, small forward type. He gives me, again, like if I pick Batum, though, I'm basically not going to be that good in points and threes, which is okay, right? Those can be the two categories I'm punting.
You can now just make those definitely punting those categories. If you want to go in a little different direction, you could look at someone I've been kind of staring at. You probably get this guy a little bit later. He's currently going 93rd. Buddy Hield. I think 93 is far too low for Buddy Hield.
Yeah, and so I mean he's available, and I mean there's just a lot of guys here. Another guy you could reach down and grab if I wanted to get points, Jabari Parker. I think Jabari Parker scores 20 a game for the Bulls. So it all really just depends on how I want to go with the team at this point. Another guy, if I just want some points and to completely lock down my rebound so I don't have to think about it, Enes Kanter goes in this range, man. That's a pretty good value for Enes Kanter.
Yeah, that's surprising that Enes Kanter goes so late. But I think, with AD Gobert, you don't really have to worry about your rebounds awful much.
Here's what I'll say, right?
The team that you just built with Middleton and Rubio being involved. And I'm going to give you Nico at 71 just because I love Nico, and I like to talk about him.
So, and then it'll probably be Chris Dunn, right? Like, I mean, his Yahoo's ADP is 85. So, right, like, someone's got to be around, and I think that he's kind of the one getting overlooked, right? Guys are reaching up for Ayton and Doncic and Dennis Smith Jr., like all these fun names who are young and
if he is available, which I think it's hit or miss at this point right now. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. That bumps your steals up really, really nicely, and you're going to be set in steals. I think rebounds and blocks are going to be all good. Your assists are super solid. Your percentages are also solid, like nothing good, nothing bad. Like you're not punting any of this. You're not leading in the percentages either.
If you give me the third point guard and Chris Dunn, I think I'm one of the better teams in the league in assists. And here's why, right? I don't have a super elite, like there's a couple guys who get pretty close to 10, right? I don't have one of those. But here's what I do have. I have probably 7 from Jeff Teague. I have a good solid 5 to 5.5 from Rubio. Right? I have a couple, I have 4 together probably between Anthony Davis and Gobert. I have 4 from Middleton. right? Like you start adding those numbers up, right? Like that's going to be a really good assist team.
There are only 13, 16, about 17, 18 players, a little bit less, who averaged over. Here, this is a lot easier. There are 20 players who averaged 5.5 assists or more. You have 3 of them.
Right. And then I have a guy with 4 and another 2 guys combined who get 4.
Yeah, so you're sitting pretty well at assists.
I think I'm one of the better teams in the league, if I'm being honest, right? Yeah. Like, think about it.
Your points are pretty solid. They're not bad. They're probably in the middle to lower half, depending on how other people built their teams. So you're really not like hard punting anything other than 3-pointers, pretty much.
Right. And you nailed it with something you said a little bit after that, right? So with my next pick, okay, I'm probably maybe going to want someone who scores a little bit more. But look at the guys kind of available in that next little section there. You got guys like Buddy Hield. Maybe D'Angelo Russell slips. Maybe he doesn't, right? But then, like, you got other guys. Eric Gordon scores some points, right? You got a guy like Trae Young. You got Jabari Parker. Like, if I want a points guy with that next pick, I can reach down there and snag a guy who might get me, 18 to 20 points, some of those names, and then I'm kind of feeling real good about that category too.
It is much easier than people I think, especially this year. Usually it's hard to get those to make up points later in the draft, but I think this year it's a little bit easier than it used to be.
Well, yeah, because guys like Russell and Jabari Parker are hanging around a little bit longer
down there.
Right, than they have. And Buddy Hield, you mentioned it, right? Like, would you be surprised if Buddy Hield scored like 16, 17 points a game? Like, I wouldn't.
No, not at all. And a lot of 3-pointers late in the draft as well. The 3-pointers, it's hard to get an elite guy who's hitting like 3 to 4, but like a lot of guys shooting more threes this year. So a lot of 1.5s for your pickings out there.
Yeah, I don't even know, man. Some of those guys even shooting like 3. I mean, they hang around a while.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty solid team all around, really. Tyler, with AD that you took over the second overall pick, he slipped his 2, and I think that is a slip. At 23 and 26, you took Gobert and Middleton, everyone's favorite, Chris Middleton. So you went the 2 center route with AD, and then you turned around and took 2 point guards, Rubio and Teague. There could be here people who kind of veer off and just get Gordon Hayward or go in a wing direction and completely punt assist, completely get rid of that. And you didn't want to do this. You went towards assists, and that's totally fine. Rubio and Teague, both very good picks, good rebounds from Rubio. Nico Mirotic was available. Also, Nick Batum was available. And you said you felt like you could go either way there. And then, if Chris Dunn is available at 74. So 47 Rubio, 50 Teague, 71 Nico, and 74 Chris Dunn. That's a pretty good team, Tyler.
I got 2 kind of closing thoughts I want to say to kind of put a bow on this whole thing. If you get Anthony Davis, I think you can really take your draft in any direction. So don't be afraid to not listen to me, man. In the second round, man, maybe you want to pick, I don't know, name a guy, Drew Holiday. Maybe you want to pick Kyle Lowry. Maybe you want Devin Booker. Right? Like, I'm cool with picking Devin Booker. If Devin Booker hadn't hurt his hand, man, he was actually in my second round, and I think that he's gonna slip into third round, and that's a mistake now. So I would be really interested in picking him, maybe even over Drew Holiday in that kind of turn range. Go any way you want to go. I kind of went with a 2 center build, and I did that on purpose. And the reason was I think that people shy away from that because they're like, I got a center in AD. Sometimes I like to get another center because I feel like those are 2 elite centers, and there's not that many of those.
I actually think people do kind of take AD a little bit for granted. You go, well, you know what? I got AD, 2.5 blocks a game, 11 rebounds. I'm solid on centers. I don't need a center. And they look up in the 9th round, and they're no longer one of the best rebounding and block guys out there because someone's picked up Capella and picked up Brook Lopez late. And, there are ways you could do this where you end up getting Steven Adams or Brook Lopez late. You don't worry about your center until that 70, what is that, round 6, round 7. You could go that route and get better guys, or you can completely lock up your rebounds and blocks with a Gobert AD build like you have, Tyler. I like this team. It's a good looking team.
Right, and so you don't be afraid to pick whoever you want though. And it's AD, like AD is just he's so good and he's so skilled and he's great. Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is like know the people in your league and know what they're gonna go for, right? Like so maybe you want, I don't know, Luka Doncic, or it's like a hot rookie. But maybe you guys in your league go crazy for hot rookies. Well, then maybe you zig when they zag, right? Like if they're going to pick Luka Doncic at 30, well, that means someone else is going to slip to you that's better, okay? And I think this is an important thing to say about picking on the turns. So we picked on the turns today, right? I think you always draft when you're picking like with one guy picking in between, right? So one guy was picking in between us today. I think you always draft the guy you think he's most likely to pick first, okay? So if you're looking at 5 names and I know I want these 2, the guy I'm going to pick first is whichever one I think he's the most likely to pick. So look at his team, man. Does he need a point guard? If you want a point guard and he needs a point guard, you better pick the point guard you want first. And that's something I think that's underrated that some people don't do, right? So like if I'm looking at Nick Batum and Chris Dunn for those last 2 picks and I'm like, oh man, this guy needs a shooting guard, well then I'm picking Batum first because I think he needs a shooting guard.
If he needs a point guard, then you go with Dunn.
Right? And if he doesn't need either, then I'm like, okay, which one is he most likely to pick? Well, if it's Mike, right, he's a Bulls fan, so he's probably more likely to pick Chris Dunn than he is pick Nick Batum.
Chris Dunn is not lasting to pick 71 in that draft if I'm in that draft.
But like, do you get my point though? Like,
I absolutely get your point.
I think people don't realize that. Like, I'm just gonna be like, this is the guy I want.
Yeah, pay attention to the rosters of the other players.
Right,
and it's very important.
That's just an idea.
I like that. That is good advice, Tyler. That is it for the first Who Do I Draft with Anthony Davis. We're going to be doing more of these with all the first round cast of characters as we get closer to NBA opening day. Good luck on your drafts out there, everybody. Tyler, where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Tyler P. Watts.
Beautiful. And you can find me at Watch the Boxes. If you guys are looking for exclusive content, we got Roto tiers ranked out there. We have podcasts that are exclusive to our Patreon subscribers. Go check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. And you can also be entered into our listener leagues if that is something you're interested in. So once again, patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. We'll be back with more Who Do I Draft. Thanks, everybody. All right, one more with you want to do Jokic?
Oh God, what number is that?
8.
I think I might have really screwed that last one up.
I don't think so.
I was just nebulously going off my head, and then I was like, oh man, and I was like, yeah, okay, this isn't that bad.
I don't think so at all. I think that's an interesting build. That's not I don't think that's a normal build for AD, but I kind of like it.
I just like to kind of push the envelope, go like 2 centers, just make people think about that. Because I don't know, man. Every time I get in that group of centers that I got to pick one,
I don't like any of them.
I'm just like, fuck this guy, man. I hate him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I don't want to pick Marcus Gasol. I don't want Al Horford on my team. And there's always a run in the 4th round. You're like, ugh.
Now, see, I picked Al Horford in that draft I did on Saturday because, like, of those guys, like in the like general top 50 range, they were all going because it's like a crazy league now, and it's like $460 some budget. They were all going like $50, and Al Horford went for like 42. So I picked him. I was like, hey man, he's probably right around a top 50 player, and like every other top 50 guy went for over $50. And I'm like, $8 discount, bro. I'll take it.
Done deal.
But yeah, Horford just gives you some.
That's a good pick.
So I mean, he just gives you some weird stats, and I'm like, all right, whatever you guys don't want him, I'll take him. Like, I'm cool with that. But I mean, that's the league. That's one of those leagues too, where like everyone's real good, so you kind of gotta just take what you can get.
Yeah, you gotta know that nothing's gonna slip to you.
Right? I'm like, all right. Like I paid more for freaking Teague and Rubio than I had to pay for freaking Al Horford.
56.
Yeah,
And
just make sure you know the numbers because that's where I was like blanking out. I was like, I didn't have the numbers written down, and I was like, fuck, what number?
I'm doing the calculation right now.
I was like, I was literally like blanking out on it. Like, I don't even know because I can usually think about it in my head, but I don't know. I got a real bad headache today, so I was not trying to think.
Oh, no worries. Do you want to stick to the same format, or do you want me to pick this team? Or
all right. Well, you got to give me the numbers you want me to pick. If you want to pick, you can pick. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care either.
Doesn't bother me, man. Or you can even tell me I'm full of shit if you want. I don't care. Just be like, yo, man, that's not who I picked. Like, all right, I'm up with ideas.
I really want Jokic, Ben Simmons. I don't think it's gonna happen. It can happen. I just don't think it's happened.
Why won't it happen?
Ben Simmons usually goes earlier than that.
Oh yeah, 9, 10, 11. 12,
so you really can't do a Ben Simmons with LeBron or Jokic. You could maybe do Russ.
No, he's not in by ADP, I guess, right? What is it? The picks are 9. Oh yeah, he is. Never mind. Sorry, I'm blanking myself out here.
I did Jokic at 8 because he's 8th in this list, and then he's 9th overall, and Westbrook's 9.1. So they both can't be fucking 9.
Well, that and what's his name's been falling because he got hurt. Westbrook was ahead of him.
Like, oh yeah, that's true.
For like the last 2 weeks, but he got hurt, so now he's number 9.
That's true. I guess I'm going to put Jokic at 8 because I think
I'm cool with that.
8. He's better at 8.
Shit. So 8 and 12 and 13, 11 and 14, 10 and 15, 9 and 16, 8 and 17. Oh, dude. This is a layup, man.
What do you mean? You want to do this one?
6, 8, 10, 12.
Here, let's just stick with the same format. And I'll just I'll just talk more.
The layup was not as layup as I thought. I thought you were gonna get Paul George, but then I realized Yahoo has actually got it right. Dude, you realize his ADP on ESPN is like 25. Funniest thing I've seen all day.
Who?
Paul George. He's literally a 3rd-round pick on ESPN somehow.
He's 13 on Yahoo.
Yeah, but he's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Oh, he's a 13th player, yeah. I'm just like, there's no way, man. That's the biggest layup I've seen. If I can have Paul George with any 2nd-round pick, I'm going to take him in almost everyone. Like, even, he's probably in my top 12.
Yeah, he's going to be better this year with no Melo.
I mean, so it's just crazy to me. But, all right, I'm ready. Whatever.
All right, we'll do the same format. It's fine. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Box's Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com, where if you go out right now, they have premium fantasy tools to help you win your upcoming draft and your upcoming fantasy season. They work hand in hand with the Watching the Boxes podcast to make sure you're going to win your entire league this year. So go check out #basketball.com. There's a lot of really, really cool tools. They got YouTube clips of how to use those tools. There's advanced schedules. There's trade analyzers, projections, even a point ranking system, auction draft values for players based on what your league's makeup is. It's really a one-stop shop for all your fantasy basketball tool needs.
Best free tools on the internet.
It really is, Tyler. Welcome to another episode of Who Do I Draft? One of the segments that we put together here. We go look through the first round and we take each one of those players and we say, you know what? Who do I draft? And we base that on head-to-head 12-team leagues. So we're going to do a snake draft with 12 teams. We base it on head-to-head 9-cat. We'll probably throw in the occasional, this is what I would do in a auction league. This is what I would do in a roto league. But really, a majority of the people we talk to who give us feedback, they play in head-to-head leagues, they play in snake drafts, and they want to know who to build their team around. And in an auction draft, you can build your team however you want. I suggest everybody out there take the leap, join an auction league, or make your league an auction league. It makes the league more complex. I had a long, incredibly long auction draft over the weekend. It was probably somewhere between 6 and 7 hours, though it is all done in person and it is all done with drinking. So the 6 or 7 hours is actually encouraged by this group of guys.
Hey man, no better way to do it.
It certainly is the best way. And today, Tyler, are you ready today for who do I draft?
Whom do I draft, Michael? Whom should it be?
We might have to change the name to be more grammatically correct. We're gonna go with a player that I'm super intrigued by, a guy who's currently going average pick being 9th, but I'm gonna make him the 8th pick in this draft. And this is Nikola Jokic, the all-star center for the Denver Nuggets, a triple-double threat from the center position, a guy who continues to improve, a guy who is very young. I feel like I've been saying this for a couple people, Tyler. If I can't pick one or two, I want to pick 8 or 9.
Yeah, right. And here's the thing I'll say about Jokic, and maybe this will cloud your judgment for the whole thing. So maybe you just want to like turn it off now. I don't find myself picking Jokic a lot. And the whole thing is like, so he's going 8th, and a lot of that has to do with the Westbrook injury. Like Westbrook was going 8th, but now that he's hurt, guys are letting him slip below Jokic. I personally prefer Damian Lillard. We talked about that a lot last year, and I'm sticking with that take. So, and then you got guys like Kawhi Leonard in there too that you can pick. So I often don't find myself with Jokic on my team, but Jokic is another guy who, right, like our first one, Anthony Davis, like you don't really have to punt anything, right? He's a real great across the board contributor, and you can take it a lot of different ways.
Yeah, he's another center with really good percentages, which a lot of people know the centers are they got bad free throws. You're talking about your Drummonds, your Andre Jordans, and those guys really raise in value when you go the full punt strategy in a head-to-head league. But when you're drafting centers at the beginning of the league, at the beginning of your draft, who have good free throw percentages, there is really no reason to punt free throw after getting a good free throw center, because that's usually the position that you ruin your free throw percentage on.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to value, right? So, sure. I mean, if you see a guy that you think, I mean, we talk about it, Jokic gets 11 rebounds, but you can't sit on that 11 rebounds forever, right? Like, if you think that, and we talked about this a little bit with Anthony Davis, right, who gives you a little bit more in the rebounding category. Like, you can't sit on that forever and not get anybody who's even a decent rebounder. Like, if you keep drafting guys who are not good rebounders, you're going to end up having to pick another big man who's getting you 7 or 8 rebounds later on in the draft. And we talk about this a lot. Not a lot of those options aren't that appealing.
Yeah, the difference between someone like Jokic and AD is that AD gets you all the blocks, gets you a ton of rebounds, and Jokic is a really very different type of center. Last year averaging 18.5 points, 1.5 threes, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, a little over steal, a little under a block, and that's kind of a big deal when you start talking about your centers. And
he might be the center and the pick in this range the most that you want to kind of punt blocks with.
Yeah, and that's actually, I think, where I don't punt until I've picked my second round pick, and sometimes even my third round pick, because usually you get really, really quality guys. But you got to wait to see who falls to you in a head-to-head league. And getting Jokic at 8, I'm actually pleased if I get Jokic at 8. I know you are a little bit more on Dame. Some people are on. I think I have LeBron over Jokic here. I could put Kawhi over Jokic. Kawhi looks pretty healthy. I could put Jokic over LeBron and Kawhi at 7, Jokic at 8, LeBron at 9 even. A lot of people might say that's blasphemy. Well, I don't care what you have to say about that. I like Jokic better as an all-around player than LeBron. Deal with it.
But if you're following Mark's rankings, right? Like if you look at the per game values of Mark's rankings, like that's spot on. That's what the rankings look like. Kawhi at 7, Jokic at 8, LeBron at 9, Lillard at 10.
Yeah, those are exact polls from #basketball.com. Mark Roberts' projections on there. I've been using them all over the place. I've been using them for years, really, before they were even on hashtag. And Mark Roberts' projections are fantastic. Go check that out over at hashtag.
If you're a guy who did RotoWire like 4 or 5 years ago now, Mark Roberts was the man who did those projections on RotoWire.
There you go.
Like 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, they're big. They're a thing.
Yeah, he's got a lot of experience putting together those. But Tyler, I think it's time to. I think we sold people on. At least I hope I sold people on Jokic. If you get him on the turn, man, you are sitting pretty. I'm taking him over. Unlike Tyler, I'm taking him over Dame. I'm taking him over PG-13. I just like the things that Jokic does across the board. You know, I'm a cross the board player. You know, I'm a roto player. You're starting on a little bit of a hole here for Jokic, though, in a head-to-head league.
Well, and this is what I'll say too. I think Jokic is more suited to your game, right? He's a little bit more of a roto player.
Absolutely.
And people might say that's blasphemy or whatever, but like two of his better things are percentages. Whereas if I'm gonna punt stuff, like which is a common strategy in head-to-head, like I'd rather have Lillard's 26 points and 3 3-pointers and punt maybe blocks and field goal percentage.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a really good argument. If that's what you want to do and that's the direction you want to go in, you think you're going to get a better build out of someone like Damian Lillard, whose strengths are scoring and 3-pointers. He's pretty decent at assists. Go for it. I, on the flip side, think that the rareness of Jokic being a guy who can get you 10 rebounds and 7, maybe 6 to 7 assists, plus 1 steal, 1 block, and over a 3, maybe even close to 2 threes a game. The uniqueness of getting that from your center is so much more valuable than Damian Lillard, who is an elite point guard, who you can start a punt build with.
So here's the 2 things I'll say about Jokic, and then we'll get going, right?
All right.
He's going to be the lowest point scorer in the 12 picks in the first round. Do you agree with that?
That is correct.
You are absolutely behind in that category.
You are definitely behind in points.
Right? So that's something you got to know. If you're going to pick Jokic, you are the worst person in points at the moment.
That's one of
the first round ends.
In Jokic's game. And I would also say blocks.
Right.
If you're getting 1 block, less than a block, that's not great.
Especially if you're going to put him as your center, right? Like if your league lets him play power forward and you want to use him at power forward and he's getting you a block as a power forward, that might not be that bad. But if you're going to go with him as your kind of sole center, blocks is not going to be your category. You are going to be bad in blocks unless you're going to make that up somewhere else. So he's kind of shifting you into a build right away by picking him a little bit.
That is 100% true, Tyler. And picking him at 8 means I am up at number 17. Now, just to remind everybody, we are going to be using Yahoo's ADPs to kind of gauge on what is acceptable for a pick around these certain picks. We're going to be doing 12-team snake draft. So my next picks are 17 and 32. Tyler, who do I have available here around 17?
Okay, so around 17, you might have Joel Embiid, although he's probably going to be the last guy picked right before you go.
Yeah,
so you got guys like Kyrie Irving, Chris Paul, Donovan Mitchell, Drew Holiday, John Wall, Jimmy Butler, maybe Devin Booker. You might look at him. Maybe Kyle Lowry, maybe Rudy Gobert, maybe Andre Drummond.
So you're kind of sitting in the middle of tier 2. Ben Simmons is probably off the board. There is a world where you just go, Ben Simmons drops to you. Maybe you just go, like, he's another triple-double type of player. You got 2 triple-double type of players. Granted, his free throws are bad, but then you're kind of looking at a really interesting build, I think, with Ben Simmons. you could do maybe you could get Westbrook and Simmons in a future podcast. We might talk about that, but I'm going to say, I'm going to agree with you that Ben Simmons is off the board. And I think Embiid's probably off the board here too.
Embiid looks like he's going to be the last pick right before you go.
Yeah, so if I want to get back into the points swing of things, which I think I do, I'm also going to be targeting a guard here because I think this is where the value is. You get your Drew Holiday, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving here, John Wall is here. I'm going to be targeting one of them, maybe even Devin Booker, if I really want to get back into the points swing of things. But Devin Booker doesn't help me too much when it comes to the assists that I desire. But man, I think this is kind of a tough choice.
And that's why you say you like to pick here. I think this to me gets into the little bit of the nebulous of the second round where I don't love to pick. I can tell you exactly who I would pick.
Who do you like here, Tyler? I think there's someone I like,
and not look back at it too hard. I just feel like Jimmy Butler gives you a lot of greatness, but you also got to worry about Jimmy Butler's injuries, man. Jimmy Butler has not been the healthiest guy. He's holding out. So it's a pretty rock solid pick to me. It's just I think it's good value, but at the same time, like it's not a sure thing.
Yeah, if Jimmy Butler is still available,
which his average ADP now is 23.8. So I mean,
it's hard not to go Jimmy Butler. I mean, he is one of the he is just one of the better players who just keeps slipping in these drafts, and I just don't understand it.
Yeah. So for me, if I'm looking at like how to rank these guys, and y'all get a kick out of this because you won't agree with me at all on this, but I am probably going to go Butler. Then I would probably look hard at the 2 point guards in John Wall and Chris Paul. And then after that would probably go Devin Booker, then Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I think you got to focus on either someone like Devin Booker, who I think at 17 is a little too high. I think I'd rather go with either someone like Kyrie Irving or John Wall.
And if you feel good about Irving staying healthy, right? Like that's a great pick. I feel worse about Irving's injury history than I do Jimmy Butler's. So, but I mean, Irving's another guy who does a lot of across the boardness, and he would give you a real strong build here.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about John Wall coming into the season, but John Wall has been he's definitely going to provide us with the assists that we need, and Jokic and John Wall together. Now, granted, Jokic here. Let me make sure I'm saying this right. Jokic shooting about 50% is pretty solid. Wall's going to tank that field goal percentage, but he's going to give you the points. He's going to give you solid. Wall is going to give you solid rebounds. And actually, I think this is why I'm going to go with Wall. I'm talking myself into it as I speak. I got two players who are great at assists. John Wall's going to give me the steals that I need that I might miss in the third round. And I think in the third round, we might be able to get a good three-point shooter to boost our three-pointers back up. So I'm actually going to lean towards John Wall here.
And Wall, if Wall is the man, he kind of maybe takes you out of a punt block thing too, because Wall gets pretty close to a block a game as a point guard.
Yeah, he's definitely helping you out if we go blocks. Maybe Miles Turner, we can get back in blocks if we need to.
So you got to pick. You want Wall or you want Butler? Which one you want, Mike?
I want Wall. I think we're going to be taking Jimmy Butler more often than not in some of these previews. I think as a build, I'm now dominating assists right now, and I got my scoring back up to an elite level. I took an elite scorer in the second round to manage out what some people usually take a 20 point, 19, 18 point score at the second round. I just kind of flipped that. So right now my points are fine. My 3-pointers are not very good, and my field goal percentage has dropped, which I'm not too pleased about. But my assists are great. My rebounds are actually very good. My steals are much better. And my blocks are fine.
Yeah, you got a nice, real solid build there, and so then we're heading into the third round, and I think you can maybe even You got a lot of options now in the third round, right?
Wide open in the third round. So we're picking number 32 in the third round after going Jokic and Wall. This is when things start to open up, and this is really when you want to start either building your punt strategy or building off of what you've already accomplished here. Tyler, do you see a punt strategy emerging here already?
Well, okay, so I'm always gonna take a third player before I pick my punt strategy, and here's my thought process behind that. If I limit myself to players too early, I might miss out on someone who drops down, right? That's just a really good value because
Yeah,
I'm
you
not,
might just handcuff yourself out of, let's just say Rudy Gobert because he fell really far for some reason, but you don't want a center. You don't want his, you just don't want what he does for your team.
right. And so I'm a big proponent of you get three players, then you decide which way am I going to take this team? Where am I going to go? What do I want to punt? What do I want to do with this team? So for me, I think everything's kind of open, right? I mean, you nailed what the categories you're not the best at in right now. I mean, obviously your field goal percentage went down a lot. Pick a Wall, you're not the best in 3-pointers, but if you pick a Klay Thompson in this next round, like your field goal percentage just got boosted up by a guard, and you made 3.5 3-pointers a game, you're right back in that category. Like you can go anywhere you want. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of a decision that you're gonna have to make with this next pick is where do you want to go?
Yeah, it's a little. I think it's a little tough for me, but there's a few names sticking out here in the average ranks here. So we are picking 32. You see guys like LaMarcus Aldridge, Clint Capella, Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, Marcus Gasol, Tobias Harris, Jamal Murray, Eric Bledsoe. There's something a little intriguing, I think, about if possible, and might be. I'm rounding up, which is probably not the right thing to do, but Kevin Love is 31.5 in ADP. We're picking 32. If Kevin Love is available here, you just got another center who's not that great in blocks, but very good in rebounds, who is going to hit threes. So you're boosting your threes, and you're basically almost saying, you know what, blocks, I'm not really terribly worried about you. I'm just going to ignore you because we're not going to, for say, punt blocks, but we're going to ignore blocks from here on out. And you're basically solidifying your rebounds and bumping up your three-pointers while getting good free throw percentage.
And here's the nice thing about the Jokic-ness, as you mentioned it, right? He gives you so many assists that you could now, like, you're really good in assists, right? You have 2 of the top, 10 guys in assists, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on how many Jokic, gets this year and where that ends up. So you could literally kind of go anywhere with this team, right? Like you mentioned, you're punting blocks, but maybe you decide to pivot back for another big man because you're pretty damn good in assists. Your weakest category, maybe one of them, if you pick a Kevin Love type, might be kind of steals and blocks. Like you might be bad at those. But, I mean, I think you could definitely make that up with a guy like maybe in the 60s or 70s, you pick a guy like Kyle Anderson. Well, then you're even real good in that category, and then maybe the only thing you're kind of thinking at is field goal percentage.
Yeah, you could really build an incredibly well-rounded, solid team. I really like the idea of going – I mean, I just like there's no elite – so, like, I'm not going to make my assists any better. I'm already really great at assists. There's assists later in the draft that I could just, like, throw on another, like, 5 to 7 assist guy on top of this. So I'm gonna stay away from. I think I'm gonna stay away from guards here, like the Eric Bledsoes or Jamal Murray might be interesting here in a little bit, but.
And this is kind of the reason why you mentioned that you love to pick here. Like I don't love to pick here because I don't love these names, man. Like a lot of the guys I like to pick, the Chris Middletons, those guys are going a little bit earlier in this round, and now we're kind of at a nebulous group where it's like. Okay, like I feel good about all these players, like they're 3rd-round picks, they're all going to be good, but it's like it's not a name I'm like super fired up to get. And
yeah, looking at some of these names like DeMar DeRozan going a little too high at 32. I don't like CJ McCollum at 30. I think you're right that there's some not so great picks up here, but I think there's some good value right below this, and I'm willing to reach down.
Right, that's what I do a lot, and that's my point. Is I think I like a lot of times here I feel like I'm reaching down instead of maximizing that value completely. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like we talk about how close these players all are all the time. So
and sometimes guys slip out of that second and third round, and you can get a hot deal here. I want to go with Kevin Love. I think.
You can't get Kevin Love here now. Let's not.
Why not? He's
31.5.
He is the 32nd pick here.
No, he is not.
Yes, he is. He's 31.5. You round up, that's 32.
But look how many. Okay, so this is the Yahoo top 50 where Mike and I are looking at here, and there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. There's 19 players below him, so he's 31.
All right, if you're not going to give me Kevin Love,
I'm not going to give me Kevin Love. I'm not giving it to you. No way.
That's who I'd want to build my team around. But that makes me pivot to someone incredibly similar, and his name is Marc Gasol. Now you're really going to be punting your field goal here with Marc Gasol getting kind of knocked out. He does boost your blocks up a little bit. His rebounds are going to help you out. His three-pointers are going to help you out from a big man stat. Marc Gasol is probably, I think, a pretty good pick. 32 might be a little high for Marc Gasol, but I don't think that's too high for Marc Gasol.
No, I'm fine with Marc Gasol kind of in that mid-third round range even. Marc Gasol is just really good, and people can say what they want. He's ranked 27th on Mark's rankings this year. He was like a top 35 player last year, even though he had a down year. So yeah, I pick a Marc Gasol at 32. It's not a terrible pick.
Yeah, I could see if you wanted to pile on the big men, which feels like the direction I'm headed here. Well, Marcus Aldridge could be someone else you target here.
And nailing Marc Gasol, right? We talk about Marc Gasol in last year's being one of the better big men for assists. Like you have you cornered the market on center assists.
Yeah. It's done. Like all the assists from a center are gone. So like my assists are really, really, really good.
You're the best team in the league in assists, unless someone picked like 3 point guards.
Yeah, which at this point I don't think too many people probably have. So I like the Marc Gasol here.
Yeah. So and then you got to pick almost right away again here. I mean, obviously there's a few picks in between there, like 6, but yeah. So you're kind of looking at a lot of these same names, right? And then maybe down a little bit further to like Eric Bledsoe, Miles Turner, and Tatum, and Horford, and maybe Gary Harris.
Yeah, we're at 41 here. This is Miles Turner still available like that. It's too many centers. If you wanted to get someone else, someone maybe slipped to you, maybe a Klay Thompson slipped down to you or something like that. Maybe you go with a guard because you know Miles Turner is going to get you back to 41. But I already got 2 centers. I got a point guard. So I'm probably looking for that 2-3 type of player. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, and Eric Bledsoe kind of ring out here. Pretty obvious. I think I'm going to go with my boy Gary Harris. He is an elite steals,
We talk about this all the time. Like if the question is which Denver backcourt guy do I want, Jamal Murray is getting picked first, but I think Gary Harris should be getting picked first. I'm also very preferential to Eric Bledsoe here. Like if I was choosing, right, just me, it would be between Bledsoe and Gary Harris, and a lot of that would have to do with what I thought I needed. And I think Gary Harris maybe is a little bit better fit for this team. Bledsoe's probably going to score a little bit more, and the percentages aren't going to be quite as good. So there's kind of a way to look at that, and you just kind of weigh those options, and Gary Harris seems like a great pick.
Yeah, I think I want those 3-pointers because we are kind of hanging around in the we're not completely punting 3-pointers right now. We're kind of hanging around there. And if you want Eric Bledsoe, he's an elite steal guy. Gary Harris is an elite steal guy. So they're both very comparable. But I feel confident enough with my assists.
Well, and that's what I mean. The big help that Eric Bledsoe is going to give you in this range, you've got the market pretty cornered on, right? His big category over Gary Harris is assists. Like they're talking like 3 more a game. But you don't need those 3 assists because you got the 2 centers who are getting the most assists. So I'm with you all the way on Gary Harris probably being the pick here.
Yeah, Gary Harris is a little bit efficient, and we are punting a field goal. So, we could maybe look further down into your Chris Dunns or your Gordon Haywards, your Ricky Rubios to fill in that role. But I mean, it's hard for me to pass up a guy like Gary Harris. Everybody knows our love affair with Gary Harris here, so I'm going to go with Gary Harris in the 4th round.
All right, so you got 2 more picks left. Blow it now. You're trending real strong.
How are you feeling about the team right now? I think scoring wise, we are probably average. Rebounds, we are real good in. It feels like assists we're pretty solid in still, but we might want to boost those a little bit. Steals, I think we're fine. Blocks, we're not that great. We're not bad, but we're not good. Which direction should we go here? Should we just should we look for another big man, or should we go with a guard to solidify the stats that we really need?
Well, I'm preferential to a lot of guards in this next range, so I'm probably looking that way. But I mean, here's how I like to play this more than anything, right? We know what we're good at, we know what we're bad at, and I'm gonna go for the best available that combos that. Okay, so to me, I think you stink at blocks. You probably need a little bit more points. Right? You're probably trending a little bit down in that.
That's fair.
So I don't think you want to go for a Jared Allen type, right? Or a Hassan Whiteside type, or a Larry Nance type who's going to get you like 10 points, unless you're going to punt that category.
Yeah, and we don't care about field goals right now, so we can go with like high volume shooters around here. That would also probably boost up our assists just a little bit. And it sounds like we're going to start ignoring blocks more, simply because we have a lot of guys who are just mediocre at blocks. You're not going to be the worst at blocks, but you're also not going to win the league in blocks. So I'm going to start ignoring blocks now. I'm going to solidify my points. And I'm probably going to start solidifying my 3-pointers. I still got some good 3-point shooters here. But if I can find another 3-point shooter out there, I think I'm going to have to focus on that.
All right, and that's a way to go. So I'm game. What number are we at here? Let's see here.
We're at 56.
56. So we got guys like Robert Covington. We got Lou Williams, Jared Allen, Nick Vucevic, Joe Ingles, Ricky Rubio, Dwight Howard.
See, there's a lot of guys in here who just aren't point guys.
Right, and so that's where I tried to get that out early, right, is picking Jokic puts you behind immediately in points, right? And sure, like you passed a couple guys in the second round because you went John Wall and someone else picked Draymond Green and someone else picked Rudy Gobert and someone else picked Andre Drummond. So you might be past those teams with your kind of 40-point average, but then you went Gasol, who only got you 16, and you went with Gary Harris, who only got you 17.
That's true. Maybe Drummond was looking a little bit more sexy at 17 than I originally thought.
Right, and so you're down in these points category, and maybe you want to punt that. I mean, I don't think you're the worst team. Let's put it that way. But I don't think you're trending up in that category either. And so, I mean, so who's the best scorer in this range, right? Probably Nikola Vucevic.
If you were going Drummond in the second, you were 100% punting points. And so, I think we can crawl back here on our points, and I think we can solidify the things that we are actually really, really good at, which is currently rebounds, steals, and assists, while getting some other guys here. So I like Vucevic. I like your suggestion of Vucevic.
And if you go for a good steals guy, right, you're trending pretty well in that category as well, right? Like Jokic gets you 1.2. You got an elite guy then in the second round, and then you got Gasol, who's only 0.8. Like that's not great, but then Gary Harris was another elite guy. So if you go for one of these point guards who get you elite steals, right? Be that Chris Dunn, be that Ricky Rubio, be that Jeff Teague. You're kind of trending real well in that category too. So there's another thing to think about. And I would say Jeff Teague's probably available with your next pick, right? So you probably don't have to pick him here. And
we got perhaps Nico Mirotic hanging around here.
Right, you got Chris Dunn. So you got a lot of options here.
Lauri Markkanen. I'm looking right at Lauri Markkanen. Is he still available, or are we going to count him out?
So he is the
52.
He's the 51st player in ADP. His average draft position is 52.
Damn.
So I think he's probably gone.
Tyler, that hurts my heart. And
he's also injured, so that number should be dropping, I would guess, relatively quickly. And so, could he be available? That's a distinct possibility, right? He has that sprained elbow. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, so he's going to miss the first month of the season at least.
Yeah, he definitely is probably going to trend down here as we approach the regular season. I do like your idea of another mediocre block center of Vucevic. And I'm also liking Chris Dunn here, but I think I can get Chris Dunn at 65.
Right, and so that's my point. Is I mean you kind of got the option, okay? So there we saw the shooting guard, small forward types kind of dry up a little bit unless you're going to go for Joe Ingles.
Yeah.
Right, because even Covington's probably picked. Now Covington might be available, but you got those two options. Or you got Taurean Prince or Will Barton if you're preferential to either one of those two men. And then you got Vucevic is kind of the big man that I would be looking at. And then you got the 3-point guards that we talk about a lot. And you kind of got to make a decision on what two of those players you think you want. Maybe you want 2-point guards out of those three. Maybe you want a big man. So it all just depends on which way you want to take it.
Well, I like targeting Young in the let's see, 34. We're in the 5th round. I like targeting Young Dunn in the 6th round. So I think I'm actually going to go with take a swing here with a guy who saw some upside in the second half. His scoring was up to 18 in the last half, the last 2 months of the season. He's on a team where there's only going to be one chucker, and he's going to be the other one. Taurean Prince feels like a really nice grab here. He's going to hit some threes. He's going to get you some steals, and we don't care about our field goal percentage, so we don't care that that's going to go down. But he's going to give us some scoring.
And I'll say this: we don't really know what that team's going to look like, right? He's maybe the number one option on that team.
Yeah.
Right. And
unless you think Trae Young is going to be like, I'm going to shoot 40 times a game and no one else is going to get the ball.
So that's one of them. In my opinion, that's one of the more nebulous teams, right? We don't really know anything that they're going to do quite yet, right? And maybe you think John Collins is the number one scorer. I mean, I'm not going to go there. I'd bet more on Taurean Prince than John Collins, so there's an idea there. It's not the pick I would make, but I like it. It's a different take, and we talked about this in the Hawks preview. I would not be surprised at all if Taurean Prince finishes the year as a top 50 player. So,
yeah, I think this is a swing. It could be a swing and a miss. It could be a swing and a hit. And at this point in the draft, I think I'm willing to take one of those risks to get a guy who's good across the board, who helps me out in basically the stuff I want, but doesn't help me out in field goal because I don't care about field goal. And his blocks are like whatever. We're ignoring blocks, so it doesn't terribly matter. Is there anyone in particular you would be targeting here, Tyler?
So if it's my pick, I am probably going to take a point guard. I feel like the point guards. I feel like after this range, the point guards aren't very sexy, right? So I like to always have at least 2 point guards. So I'm probably going to go with Jeff Teague. I just feel like he's probably the best of that group, especially if Jimmy Butler's gone.
And then Jeff Teague's underrated for sure this year.
And then in the next round, right, I'm going to pivot back. Here's another interesting guy that I'll say about it. It could be Luka Doncic, right? He kind of fits your build. Because if we think Doncic is going to stink in any categories, it's going to be field goal percentage and blocks. Right? I think Doncic is going to get you over a steal a game. I think it's going to be real good points, real good assists, real good rebounds. So there's another kind of interesting name. He's going to shoot some 3-pointers.
That is an interesting name. Maybe Doncic at 56 instead of Taurean Prince. I think that's a pretty good. It's a pretty good thought.
And so you said take a swing, right? If I'm taking a swing,
That's your swing.
I've seen Taurean Prince, okay, and Taurean Prince is fine. He's great, but he's not going to be a top 30 player, right? We can agree on that. Doncic has some upside that Taurean Prince hasn't had, I guess is my point. But that's the sentence I'm going to go with. Right?
Tyler,
I'm not going. What?
You've convinced me. Like you had me at hello. Look at Doncic, baby. Like why didn't I think of this? He's good at rebounding. He's good at assists. He's going to fit all the things that we need. He could be fairly good at scoring. He basically fits our entire build.
Yeah, so I mean, there's an idea, right? So I'm just a man of ideas. I'm not saying that's who you should pick. That's a shot. Right. You can go with someone safer. There's a lot of safer guys in this range. Doncic is a risk, sure. But if that home run hits,
when you are picking at the turn at the end of the 8, 9, 10, 11, you aren't getting one of those top guys. You aren't getting a guy who's basically worth 2 of the 4th round guys, like AD or Harden. So you do need to take a little bit of a swing in order to gain the value that you've lost by not having a top pick. And I don't know why I didn't think about it, but Luka Doncic is actually at the perfect swing here to fit with our really strong assists build with Jokic, Wall, and Gasol. Our rebounds are going to be good. He's going to have good rebounds as well. Our threes are all fairly solid. Our steals are looking fairly good. And I'm actually thinking in the 6th round with picks number 65, doubling down on all of that stuff by going with Chris Dunn, guy who doesn't shoot that well, but is going to give you assists, is going to give you elite steals, is a pretty decent rebounder and an okay scorer as well. So maybe we aren't tearing up the world in points here, but we're ignoring blocks and we're ignoring field goal, and we're building an incredibly strong steals, assist, rebound team, which is kind of a weird look.
Yeah, so and this is a team where you're trending more to you're probably going to lose 3 or 4 categories every week. But if you win 5-4 or 6-3 every single week, you make the playoffs, and when you get to the playoffs, you're a really hard team to beat because no one can beat you in rebounds, no one can beat you in assists, no one can beat you in steals. You know what I mean? Like you're getting enough categories there where you're relatively strong, right? And you're a pretty good free throw team. I like it.
And you still have those later rounds to go, okay, my 3-pointers are looking all right. Let's go hard at 3-pointers. So, maybe you start targeting super late the DeMarre Carrolls of the world. Maybe you look at guys, I don't know, like Zach LaVine or Rondé Hollis-Jefferson or JJ Redick. You can find some of those threes. So if you wanted to go in that direction, go find those threes. Or if you really wanted points, maybe you go after Jabari Parker. Or once again, Zach LaVine. Harrison Barnes is down there. So if you wanted to still build up those kind of weaker, the points and the 3-pointers, which you need to be better in, you can still build those up as the draft went on.
Yeah, and I mean, you could also maybe start thinking again about blocks. Like, you're not that bad in blocks, especially if you got John Wall, right? John Wall is one of the better blocking point guards. You could maybe build that category up a little bit too by looking at winning that category on the margins, I'll say. Doncic might get you like 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. You're not terrible in that category.
No, not at all.
I'm not writing that category completely off. I mean, obviously you pick Gary Harris, who's not good in that category, but you got Marcus Gasol's 1.4. Like, you're okay. You're okay in that category. You're not the absolute worst team. Because Chris Dunn's going to give you 0.72, right? So, like, if you would have picked one of the 2 guys that I prefer, of Ricky Rubio or Jeff Teague, I'd say you're total punt in that. Like, you're total bad. But
yeah, and that actually might make the difference between those guys who pick Steph Curry and those kind of like, I'm going to punt blocks now. I pick Steph Curry or James Harden. And that might make the difference of just having those extra 0.5 here, 0.5 there that allows you to win that 5th category.
Right. And so maybe in your next pick, right, or your later picks. And this is the type of build where I think a guy like Kyle Anderson gets pretty sexy because he's gonna pile on more points, but he's also going to give you pretty close to a block a game. He's going to give you some more assists. He's going to give you some more rebounds, and he might not be a great free throw shooter, and he's not going to give you the threes that you maybe need, but you know what I mean? Like that block there is sort of pushing you back toward the top, and there's some other guys in there, maybe like a James Johnson type, or like late on in the draft that you could buy, where you just buy yourself a block or two and you push yourself up a little higher and a little higher and a little higher.
Yeah, I think with your 8th round, you're kind of wide open. You could go the Harrison Barnes, D'Angelo Russell route. You could even go Buddy Hield. If you think if you get Buddy Hield in the 8th, that would be a great pick to go with kind of a scorer type. Jabari Parker's still available in the 7th. Go Buddy Hield, get those 3-pointers up, get that scoring up, and you can build those back up. I think you can still go in a lot of different directions here. So you can really you got a strong base, and you can fully punt one of the things that you're average in, but you're elite enough to compete, and you can still build. You can still basically win your league by drafting really well in the later rounds.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot, right? Like there's a big bucket there. You just got to find the ones that fit your build the best. And, here's the thing I'll say about hard punting. Okay. The strategy works in head-to-head leagues, right? You can take a bunch of guys and be the absolute worst person in that category, right? If I take Drummond and Dwight Howard, I'm going to be the absolute worst person in free throw percentage. But then I got to know I'm never going to win that in a week, ever. Right? Whereas if I do a different little strategy, like I was mentioning with the blocks here, right, where I just kind of get a few on the margins toward the end, maybe I beat 3 teams in blocks. Well, maybe those are 3 of the better teams. Those are the 3 teams I'm going to play in the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe they're not. But if I can maybe sneak that category over them in a playoff matchup, that might be the one category that sways the thing.
And also, it's a long season, Tyler. You don't win your playoffs. I'm real tired of that question. Who should I be drafting because this guy doesn't have a really good, very, very good playoff schedule? What are you drafting for your playoffs for? It is October right now. Like, you are not in your playoffs. I don't know if you're going to make your playoffs. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. That's all determined as you get closer to obviously playing the games and then getting closer to the playoffs. And then guys like KD and Curry are worth 2 times the amount of guys. So you're like, oh, I'm going to avoid those guys because they're bad playoff schedule, dude. Who cares?
Well, and it's also the big risk of selling out for 1 or 2 players to try to win a category. Like, maybe you pick the 2 best assist guys right this year, and maybe they're James Harden and LeBron, maybe they're James Harden and Chris Paul, whatever. Like, you get those 2 guys, right? And this happens more in auction drafts, right? You kind of sell out for like 2 guys to keep you in a category. What if one of those 2 guys gets hurt?
Yeah, and now you're just mediocre,
right,
at those categories.
And so building your strengths is sometimes a smart thing to do, in the sense that it takes some of that risk away of, right? Like, if I'm counting on this guy to be my home run hitter in this category and then he goes down, and that's why blocks are an interesting category this year, in the sense that we keep seeing blocks kind of go down, right? Like, no one's getting a whole massive amount of blocks. And so hard punting that category is not something I'm going to be doing maybe at all this year. And the theory behind that is, if someone picked Anthony Davis, right, to anchor their blocks, and that's the only guy they got, and they've got all guys that are like 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 after that, and Anthony Davis gets hurt, let's hope that doesn't happen. That guy's going to be real bad in blocks, and that's a guy I can pass pretty easy.
Yeah, and this build allows you to compete in blocks. I kind of like that about this build. And a lot of people, they go, when they hard punt, it makes other guys more valuable. That's certain. That's very obvious. That's the whole point of a punt build. But it also makes guys that might be valuable completely worthless on your team. If you just keep piling on the rebounds and the blocks.
Well,
Like
and
you cannot make a trade for a guy who might be good at might be a good value that you could get, but like he just doesn't he just might not help your team. Or if you're hard punting, like okay, well I don't really need the assists, so every single point guard in the league is no longer I'm not interested in those people, so that's just less people to trade with.
well, and here's the other thing too, right? And this is the thing that blows my mind about some people. They'll say, I'm punting assists going into my draft. Okay, that's a strategy. But what if Mike and I are both punting assists?
And some other dude.
Right? And then, yeah, and that's what I'm going to say. And then some other guy decides, oh, I'm going to punt assists. So then all the point guards are falling 5, 10, 15 spots too low. Like, that doesn't seem like a good strategy. And that's why, for me, I'm never going to go into a draft with a set. I am 100% going to punt this category.
Yeah, you really do have to react with what guys actually fall to you and what other people are doing, and you can get pretty obvious out there. The guy who picked Andre Drummond in the second round is punting free throws. Pretty obvious.
But and here's the thing I will say about when I picked Drummond, and this is why we mentioned this in the Anthony Davis one. Like I'm cool with going to Anthony Davis and Drummond because I feel like if I go Anthony Davis and Drummond, I might not be absolutely last in that category. I might be beating one or two guys, and one or two guys I want to beat. I want to beat one or two guys in every category. I don't want to be absolute last.
Well, that is one of those rare occurrences, and similar to the build we did with AD, getting another blocks rebounds guy. Like once you're so solidified in that, you can go in the completely other direction, and with your third, fourth, fifth round picks, and you're getting really, really quality guys to build up the rest of that team.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about the blocks rebounds, but. That's it, I think, for Jokic. We went with the 8th overall pick. We got Jokic, which I think is a very good place to take him. Tyler wants to take him a little bit later. But that's neither here nor there. And with 17, we went with Wall, a good rebounding, high assists, a good scorer, so we could get that scoring back. And also those steals are up. Marcus Sol, another no-block sitter who's going to get our rebounds and threes. Pushing our points up a little bit further as well. And then when we went with Gary Harris in the 4th round at pick 41. Gary Harris, elite steals guy, kind of across the board type player, kind of fits all of the categories that we are looking at this point. We're pretty much getting rid of blocks. We're mediocre at points. Our assists need to be a little bit better. And Tyler with the brilliant pick of Luka Doncic, another guy who's going to be a rebounds, assists, kind of a hitting threes, scoring, getting some steals, just building everything up. Bad a field goal at this point, but that doesn't matter too awful much. We went with Chris Dunn at 65, and that solidified our assists and steals as fairly elite, along with our rebounds and assists, which I think I already said assists, but along with our rebounds, we still have some pretty good threes. So we still need to build our points and threes up at some point, and there's still a ton of guys left after that where you could build those points and threes. So pretty good team, pretty kind of interesting. I think Jokic is a very versatile player. You can really go in a lot of different ways. You know, this isn't the end-all be-all punt strategy, but if I got drafted this team, I'd be pretty happy about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Jokic is there's just a ton of ways to go with him. And then I think we kind of talked about that with both the first two guys is, right, if you get Westbrook, you pretty much boxed yourself in a little bit to you're going to be kind of good in these categories and like really good in these categories and not so good in these categories. Like he actively hurts you in some categories, whereas Jokic, you'd kind of take it anywhere.
That's right. Those are the type of guys I like, Tyler. I think that is it for Who Do I Draft, the Jokic edition. Check us out on patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. We got exclusive content out there where we have podcasts, listener leagues, rankings, all sorts of stuff on patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. And also, if you like what we're doing, leave us feedback, send us a tweet. Tyler, where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Tyler P. Watts.
You can find me at Watch the Boxes. We're taking your questions. We're taking your suggestions for podcasts leading into the season. We want to give you what you need to hear before you do your draft, before the season starts, and we'll be sticking with you throughout the entire season. There's a lot more of these to go. So, Tyler, we will be talking to you later, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Good night, everybody.